Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be going over my breakdown of the entire NFC East heading into the 2025 NFL season. As you can tell, I have rented out the entire ESPN studios, even though it appears not quite all the lights are on. So if you would please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. But here we go. Last year, as we all know, the Eagles kind of dominated the division, just like they dominated the NFL on their way to winning the Super Bowl. And there was the surprising Commanders team who kind of shocked the world and were actually a very, very solid team, especially at the end of the year behind Jaden Daniels and the new coaching staff, just kind of the whole thing. The Cowboys fell off, and then the Giants, well, the Giants were the Giants. But things change. There's new coaches in some places. There's new quarterbacks in others. There's new linemen everywhere because, linemen change and just teams are different. And as we all know, with the NFC East, it is required that year to year there is a different NFC East champion. So that'll probably happen this year as well. It's like 20 years in a row at this point. But my very first thing I did in my research of the teams is what any smart person would do nowadays. That is ask ChatGPT. What did they tell me? Well, at first they told me nothing. I inquired a little further. I'm like, what do you think? What do you think, Mr. Robot? And he said he would lean, I think it's a guy. He said he would lean to the Eagles, but the Commanders were closing the gap, and then the Cowboys could surprise if they were healthy. Unfortunately, for any Giants fans, he did not mention the Giants when I asked. So that might be a bad sign. So I'll start off with last year's champions and work my way down the NFC East. So starting with the Eagles, doesn't hurt that they are my favorite team, and of course the team that I know the most about. So what changed for the Eagles? Well, to start things off, they lost some players, especially on the defense. Milton Williams is probably the biggest piece that they lost, but they also lost Slay. They lost Isaiah Rodgers. They lost Josh Sweat. They lost just a ton of random players. However, I would contend that they did manage to keep their stars. They kept Zach Bond, and they have essentially their entire offense already locked up. They did lose their offensive coordinator once again to the Saints, and this might hurt because we have seen year to year Jalen Hurts has fluctuated with different offensive coordinators. There might be some growing pains there. However, the replacement has been there for a long time, so hopefully that kind of eases some of the pain. But through all this, the Eagles are, of course, the favorite to win this division. They are projected to get 11.5 wins at the time that I'm looking at FanDuel, which is several more games than anyone else in the division. They are the runaway favorites, and they are one of the Super Bowl favorites. So, just because they did it last year essentially, and the team is pretty much the same, there's a decent chance they do it again this year. I think most Eagles fans would expect them to at least get 11 or 12 wins, which would probably put them right in line to win the division unless something crazy happens. They do have a hard schedule this year, but the entire NFC East has a hard schedule. But that does involve several tough games, such as at the Chiefs versus the Rams, at the Buccaneers, who always play the Eagles tough, against the Broncos, who are on the rise, at the Packers, against the Lions, and at the Bills. This is a brutal schedule, not to mention the in-division games, which are always tricky. So this will be a difficult year, but they sure do have the talent to do it. I personally think this year they're going to move a little away from Saquon. I'm a little concerned with Saquon because how many carries he had last year. So I think they have to ease off this year. I don't think he can do it for several years in a row. I think they'll rely more on Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, the whole crew, maybe even Jahan Dotson if he's lucky. We have seen several years ago that this is a very capable offense if given the right opportunity and if Jalen Hurts is playing his A game, which we have to just all hope that he is. The defense, of course, was one of the best in the NFL last year, and I think it will be again this year. The defensive line, a little concerning with a lack of depth since they lost a lot of it to free agency. However, the back seven seems like it will be pretty strong with Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Up next, the Washington Commanders. While I do think your name is dumb, your team does appear to be a little bit respectable, I guess. Jaden Daniels, of course, had an amazing rookie season, and signs seem to be pointing that he'll have another good season. I would like to caution some people who think that he's just going to automatically make another giant step up and move forward in the world. I think there's a chance he might play roughly the same. Maybe some teams kind of figure him out as he gets better, so it levels out. You might get a CJ Stroud situation where, yes, he's still a good quarterback, but it's not like he turns from a really good rookie to an MVP all of a sudden. I think if you expect that, you may be disappointed. But the team did not rest on its laurels. They did do a lot of stuff to help the team out. While they lost, of course, a few players on the defense mainly, I don't think it's anyone that they can't recover from. They did add some great players, such as Larry Tunsil, an excellent offensive tackle, Debo, who may be old but still has promise, Javon Kinlaw, of course, a pretty good defensive lineman. I just think they've added a lot of pieces, and they may be putting the puzzle together. However, it's not enough to convince me at this moment, and I don't know if I'm just being a hater, but I think they got a little lucky last year, especially starting with that Hail Mary and then going forward. For example, when they beat the Eagles, it was without Jalen Hurts, essentially. And I just think they kind of had a magical season that led them to the championship game, and I think they will fall back a little bit this year. And I would say that Vegas agrees with me at least a little bit because they had 12 wins last season, and their over-under is only 9.5 this season. So I was thinking about maybe betting the under on this team. However, at 9.5 wins, it's a little harsher than I was expecting. Maybe if it was 10.5, definitely if it was 11.5, I would bet the under. I think they will be a decent team, definitely a playoff team, but I just don't think they will be the competing for the division lead / number one overall seed that the Eagles could be. And who knows, I may just be a hater there. Up next is the Dallas Cowboys. They had a pretty bad season last season. And this was disappointing for Cowboys fans, and everyone else was pretty happy with it. It was kind of nice to see them finally fall apart a little bit, because it just kind of felt like the Cowboys had always remained pretty steady, especially under Dak Prescott. Even under Tony Romo, they just didn't have a lot of hopeless seasons, and this year was a pretty hopeless season, or last year. They were 7-10, but honestly, that is better than they were on the field. They were not very good, and of course a lot of it is due to Dak Prescott being hurt. Even though when he was on the field, he was only 3-5. So, not going to give him that much credit. And what did the Cowboys do in the offseason? Of course, other than losing their coach and hiring Schottenheimer, not a predicted pick, just kind of out of left field. Seems kind of like someone that the owner, Jerry Jones, can control, but give him the benefit of the doubt. They have a pretty steady team, pretty steady offseason. One thing they did is they punted on the running back position once again, but I actually kind of like this. I think that might be a smart move for them. And it does feel to me like this is the year when everyone has finally given up on the Cowboys. The past entire time Dak's been the quarterback going into the year, it's can the Cowboys make the Super Bowl? Can they win the division? Can they do this? Going into this year, it kind of feels like everyone is just acting like they're terrible. And that is why I am sensing that they are being underrated. I think they will be better than expected. So their over-under is 7.5 wins, and I think there's a very good chance that the Cowboys this year are better than the Commanders, and I think they could get up to about 10 wins or so. Again, not a crazy team, but I think they will be very good because I think Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb are an amazing combination that maybe is underrated outside of the fantasy football community at this point just because they've never put anything up. I'm not saying they're going to win any playoff games. I just think they'll win a decent amount of regular season games. And finally, last and least, of course, the New York Giants. So they were a dumpster fire last year. They were a dumpster fire really for a long time, other than those Super Bowl years pretty much. What did they do? They kept the same coaches. They did give up on the quarterbacks, and they said, hey, who's your new quarterback? Well, I'll just pick a bunch. So they have Russell Wilson. They have Dart, the rookie, who I really liked in the games that I saw him play. He was one of those actual college quarterbacks where I'm like, he may be amazing. I don't always get that feeling. Like Trevor Lawrence, I did not feel that way. But Dart, he had some very impressive games. And then Jameis Winston, of course, the best backup ever. This is like a treasure chest of average quarterbacks and with no guaranteed payoff. So it is a true, maybe a mystery box is a better phrase for that, because who knows, maybe Russell Wilson will get good again. Probably not. I think he's okay. He's a good 25th best quarterback in the NFL type guy, but Dart could be anything, even though I think there's a decent chance he doesn't play this year until their season is over. But Russell Wilson, they have a few good wide receivers, especially Neighbors, of course. But where this team shines is on their defense. They have an excellent defensive line, and that's most of it. But having Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and several other side pieces, they have one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. So this can be a formidable team. I could kind of see it being like how the Steelers were last year with Russell Wilson, where they kind of win relying on their defense, but the defense is just good enough that it holds on and they are able to win a decent amount of games. But I don't know. They could also fall apart. They are the Giants, so that would not shock me if they had a classic 4 or 5 win season. So overall, what are my official predictions? I'm going to have the Giants in last place, although I don't think they will be that bad. I think they will be like a 7-win last place team. I have the Commanders in third place, the Cowboys shocking the world and getting second place, and then the Eagles breaking the streak and getting first place. So what are your thoughts? Leave it down in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you later.